Harki is the generic term for Muslim Algerians who served as auxiliaries in the French army during the Algerian War from 1954 to 1962. The phrase sometimes is applied to all Algerian Muslims who supported the French Algeria during the war. In France, the term is used for Franco-musulmans rapatriés living in the country since 1962 and its metropolitan-born descendants. In this sense, the term Harki refers to a social group, French Muslims of Algerian descent, rather than other French of Algerian origin or Algerians living in France. In 2012, there were 800,000 Harkis and the descendants in France. President Jacques Chirac established the 25th of September 2001 as the Day of National Recognition for the Harkis. On the 14th of April 2012, President Nicolas Sarkozy recognized France's historical responsibility in abandoning Harki Algerian veterans at the time of the war. Before the Algerian conflict, Muslim Algerians had served in large numbers as regular soldiers with the French Armée Occultée d'Afrique from 1830 as rapatriés and tirailleurs. They played an important part during the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 and especially World War I, when 100,000 died in fighting against the Germans. During World War II, after the rearmament of the French army accomplished by the U.S. forces in North Africa in 1942-1943, North African troops serving with the French army numbered about 233,000. They made a major contribution during the liberation of southern France and the campaigns in Italy and Germany of 1944-45. Tirailleurs from Algeria, Morocco and West Africa fought in Indochina as part of the French Expeditionary Force until the fall of Dien Bien Phu. Algerian War. With the outbreak of the Algerian War in 1954, the loyalty of the Muslim Algerian soldiers to France inevitably came under heavy strain. Some of the regular units were transferred from Algeria to France or Germany, following increased incidences of desertion or small-scale mutiny. As a partial replacement, the French administration recruited the Harkis as a regular militia based in the home villages or towns throughout Algeria. Initially raised as self-defense units, the Harkis, from 1956 on, increasingly served alongside the French army in the field. They were lightly armed, but the knowledge of local terrain and conditions made them valuable auxiliaries to French regular units. According to General Ahuri, by 1960 there were approximately 150,000 Muslim Algerians serving in the French army or as auxiliaries. In addition to volunteers and conscripts serving in regular units, this total took into account 95,000 Harkis. French authorities claimed that more Algerian Muslims were serving with the French regular army than with those of the Nationalist Front de Libération Nationale. According to U.S. Army data, possibly compiled at a different date, the Harkis numbered about 180,000, more than the total FLN effectives. A 1995 study by General Fiver indicates that by 1961, there were about 210,000 Muslim Algerians serving in the French army or as auxiliaries, and a maximum of 50,000 in the FLN. A report to the United Nations dated the 13th of March 1962 gave an estimated total of 263,000 pro-French Muslims broken down to 20,000 regular soldiers, 40,000 conscripts, 78,000 Harkis and Moghaznis, 15,000 mobile group commandos and 60,000 civilian self-defense group members. The remaining 50,000 included Muslim government officials and veterans of the French army. The French used the Harkis as guerrilla-style units, though mostly in conventional formations. They generally served either in all Algerian units commanded by French officers or in mixed units. Others were employed in platoon or below-sized units attached to French battalions. A third use involved Harkis in intelligence-gathering roles, with some reported minor false flag operations in support of intelligence collection. The Harkis had mixed motives for working with the French. The FLN had attacked collaborators and rival nationalist groups, and some Algerians enrolled in the Harkis to avenge the deaths of relatives who had been political opponents of the FLN. Others were defectors from the FLN rebel forces who had been persuaded by one means or another to change sides. Many Harkis were from families or other groups who had traditionally given service to France. Others presumably supported Algeria's union with France over independence. For the viewpoint of Algerian nationalists, all Harkis were traitors, but at independence, the signatories of the March 1962 ceasefire guaranteed that no one, Harkis or pioneers, would suffer reprisals after independence for any action during the war. After the war, in 1962, the French government of Charles de Gaulle originally ordered officials and army officers to prevent the Harkis from following the pioneers and seeking refuge in metropolitan France. Some officers of the French army disobeyed and tried to assist the Harkis under the command, as well as the families, to escape from Algeria. About 91,000 Harkis did find refuge in France. On the other hand, the OAS far-right terrorist group initiated a campaign of bombings in Algeria following the Evian Accords to block the pioneers' population from leaving the country. As feared, there were widespread reprisals against those Harkis who remained in Algeria. It is estimated that at least 30,000 and possibly as many as 150,000 Harkis and the dependents were killed by the National Liberation Front or by lynch mobs in Algeria, sometimes in circumstances of extreme cruelty. In a savage war of peace, Alistair Horn wrote, hundreds died when put to work clearing the minefields along the Morris Line, or were shot out of hand. Others were tortured atrociously. Army veterans were made to dig their own tombs, then swallow the decorations before being killed. They were burned alive, or castrated, or dragged behind trucks, or cut to pieces and the flesh fed to dogs. Many were put to death with their entire families, including young children. Regular Algerian Muslim troops were only occasionally subject to reprisals. Some leaders of the new Algerian Republic were veterans of the French army, which prior to independence had provided one of the few avenues for advancement open to the Muslim majority in colonial society. By 1961 there were about 400 Algerian Muslim officers in the French army, although only one had been promoted to the rank of general. The French government, concerned mainly with disengagement from Algeria and the repatriation of the pioneers, disregarded or downplayed news of the massacres of Harkis. Charles de Gaulle appears to have been indifferent to the plight of the Muslim loyalists, according to Horn, who reported the president remarked to one of the spokesmen, "Eh bien, vous souffrirez," on the 19th of March 1962 to the responsible Minister of State Louis Jox ordered attempts by French officers to transfer Harkis and the families to France to cease, followed by a statement that the auxiliary troops landing in the metropolis in deviation from the general plan will be sent back to Algeria. The government did not plan for the Harki after independence, and for some years, it did not recognize any right for them to stay in France as residents and citizens. The Harkis were kept in temporary internment camps surrounded by barbed wire, such as the Camp de River Sorties in River Sorties outside of Pepignan and in Chantiers de Forestage, communities of 30 Harki families on the outskirts of forests which the men maintained. The French government has since enacted various measures to help the Harki community, although in the views of community leaders these laws are often too little, too late. The French government of Jacques Chirac subsequently acknowledged these former allies, holding public ceremonies to commemorate the sacrifices, such as the 25th of September 2001 Day of National Recognition for the Harkis, while active Harki associations in France continue working to obtain further recognition and aid in integrating into the society. They are still a largely unassimilated refugee minority. For its part, the Algerian government does not recognize the Harkis as French citizens. It does not permit them to enter the country to visit the birthplaces of family members left behind in Algeria. Harkis are often considered in France as Français par le sang versé. Since Algerian independence, Harki has been used as a derogatory expression within Algeria. Amongst some of the Franco-Algerian community, they have been likened to collaborators in France during the German occupation of World War II. Algerian historian Mohamed Harbi, a former FLN member, believes that comparison between Harkis and traitors or collaborators is not pertinent. He has said that fighters during the Algerian War and those who opposed the French resistance cannot be compared to collaborators. Bibliography: Alistair Horn, A Savage War of Peace, 1978, ISBN 0-670-61964-7. Edgar Obelens, The Algerian Insurrection 1954–62, 1967. Martin Windrow, The Algerian War 1954–62, ISBN 1-85532-658-2. Fatima Besnichi Lancouz, Binoir les Agiles Mansaron, Les Harkis, Histoire, Mémoire et Transmission, Préface de Philippe Jutard ed. De l'Atelier, September 2010. Fatima Besnichi Lancouz Agiles Mansaron, Les Harkis dans la colonisation et ses suites, Préface de Jean Lacouture ed. De l'Atelier, Février 2008. Fatima Besnichi Lancouz Abderrahman Maouman, Les Harkis, EQD. Le Cavalier Bleu, Collection IDE Acuities Recuse, out 2008. Isabelle Clark, Daniel Costel et Michael Gamrasny, Le Blèche, La Tragédie des Harkis, ed. Acropole, September 2010. Tom Charbot, Les Harkis, edition La Découverte, Collection Repos, Mars 2006. Vincent Crapanzano, The Harkis, The Wounds That Never Heal, Pub. University of Chicago Press, 2011, ISBN 978-0-226-11876-5. Guy Pavillé, Le Drame des Harkis, Revue Histoire, Avril 1988. Jean-Jacques Jourdi, La réécriture de l'histoire, Actes du colloque du Centre universitaire Méditerranée de Nice, 1998. Mohand Hamaoumou AILS Son Dervinis Harkis, EQD. Faliad, 1994. Mohand Hamaoumou et Jean-Jacques Jourdi, Les Harkis, Une mémoire informée, Autumn 1999. Elise Langelier, La situation juridique des Harkis, Préface d'Emmanuel Orban, EQD. De l'Université de Poitiers, Collection de la Faculté de Droit et des Sciences Sociales de Poitiers, December 2009. RE GISPA, Les Fils et Fils de Harkis, Entre double rejet et triple appartenance, Préface de Michel Wiviorca, Editions Harmatin. collection, Espaces interculturels, December 2008. Michel Roux, Les Harkis, Les Oubliés de l'Histoire, EQD. Le Découverte, 1991. Abderrahman Moumen, Les Français Musulmans en Vaucluse, 1962-1991. Installation et difficulté d'intégration d'une communauté de rapatriés d'Algérie. Editions Harmattan, Collection Histoires et Perspectives Méditerranéennes, Juillet 2003.